Hello, viewer, and welcome to Spotlight here on HOPETV, where you look and live. And on Spotlight, we always do our very best to bring to you persons who are impacting our society in the direction of light. And we are so happy also all the time to see women who are all out with a transformation agenda and doing great things in our society. And we are blessed on this Spotlight edition to have with us one such great lady. Her name is Mercy Achola Masila. And she is the director of Value Connect. She'll tell us more about that. And she has lots of things to say about her. And in addition to her corporate experience, she's also part of the John Maxwell team. She's been through the program and she's become one of the trainers herself. And she is also an author of a book about her memoirs, very interesting memoirs. And the book is 3 is Divine. Lots of things. And she also is organizing a great event on how to work in a way that your colleagues and the people you lead connect with you in a very powerful way. And hence, we'll talk a lot about love works, especially in a leadership context. Again, this is Spotlight. Welcome, and Mercy, welcome.
Thank you so much, Fury. I'm so glad and honored to be here with you on Spotlight. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. We are more honored, actually. And thank you for making time. You have a lot going on.
Yes, I do.
When we know about your story and the places you've been to and the things you've done, both in this country and outside this country, and especially when you have done what you can say, almost everything that there is to do in the corporate world. One of the things that people would usually ask is, what's the place of faith? Because you are a woman of faith through and through. And sometimes the corporate feels very secular in terms of as if it's unfriendly, to faith. But how has the faith journey been as you have done your corporate duties?
Thank you very much, Fury. That is a challenging question. I will do my best to answer based on my experience. First and foremost, faith for me has been a journey. And I've had my highs, my lows. But I can say the moment it was evident for me that I needed to walk and have faith being part of who I am and what I do and how I do it, then it's like, when we're told we're part of the vine. You can never go and remove the branch from the vine and you're asking, what are you doing in this tree, And just being that authentic self. Yes, I do have human faults like everybody else. But, we're told the fruits of the Spirit. What are they, And I try my best whenever I can. And when I get rebuked, I go and ask that I'm forgiven. But being honest in the ways we work, if I promise you that I will bring you this glass of water, Fury, that is what you get. And if I cannot do it, have also the guts and the honesty to say, I'm sorry, Fury, I tried to bring you. I could only get half a glass or none at all. And hence, can we find another solution? That is what I have found being the real mantra of how I have operated with my faith in the workplace. It's not about what I tell people that I am, but people see me by what I exude, whether it's a customer I'm serving, whether it's a colleague I'm interacting with, whether it's a supplier. It's really, keeping the word. What I say is who I am. Okay. And if I can't deliver, I will tell you just as much. Yes.
Yeah, when you think about honesty as a big value that you've exercised to your best level in different corporate interactions, sometimes people feel that when you have faith, it's separate from your work. You know, it's separate. Like, this is work, this is faith. And I think sometimes there are some even leaders or top managers who would tell their colleagues, faith is faith, work is work, right? But would you maybe bridge for us some of the big things that faith brings to the workplace?
Well, faith is one of the components, Fury. Like I said, let's take an office environment, for example. What is required? Yeah? Productivity, hard work. Can you do that? It's not really. I mean, sometimes it really hurts me to see that the people not performing are the so-called people in the household of faith. Why? One of my good friends says, there's no point of being so heavenly bound, you're of no earthly good. And we know work is one of the things that was instituted even before the fall of Adam, or fall of Adam, before sin came to us. So working hard is an ethic. It's a value that we all need to have. Are you working hard in your place of work? Are you doing your best in whatever it is you have been gifted with? That's number one. Secondly, how are you relating to your colleagues, to the people around you? Do they know that if they need some encouragement, Fury, I can come to you? Would you encourage me? Or would you be one of the first people to go and talk behind my back and say all the nasty things about me? When it comes to extending acts of love, you know, if I didn't bring lunch to the office, would you share with me? They're very simple things. And if you think about them, they're doable. No one asks of us, and we're even told, you know, someone will come and say, I didn't have something to wear, and you gave me to wear. I didn't have food, you brought me food. Those are things we can do. And even sharing in the little that we have. Okay. It's not about the much. And we know, if you're a reader of the word, it says, you will not be asked to give what you do not have, Fury. It's asked of you what you have. If you give that, you have done well. But again, like I say, it's a journey. You have to be intentional about it. These are values. I always say, part of the trainings I do is helping people to go back and reflect on values. Because values have been eroded, and I call them the foundation. Because if you know your values, Fury, you will uphold to them. You will subscribe to them, no matter where you are. Okay. No matter what you're doing. And the beauty of reflecting on them again, Fury, is because our values keep changing.
You know, when we have a values conversation,
yes,
that's such a critical conversation. And you tell us more about it when you tell us about Value Connect. But this country is not really willing, you know, to have that values conversation head on. You know, lots of vices can be cured by values, but people are more on the vice road and they choose there. And the culture of the country, even in the corporate space, sometimes tends to stay on the vice road. Now, I think we'll talk about values a little bit more, but before we get there, you telling us about your organization, which you founded, that is Value Connect. Let's stay again in the boardroom again, because it is still a very male-dominated zone. Yes, there is progress, but still much more ground is to be covered. For the woman who is watching this program and you know, desires to get to the high levels of corporate life, what are some wise things that you would say from your experience to such a person?
Another great question, Fury. And I'll say, I agree with you that things are better now from where they were, but they can still get better. In my time, over 20 years I spent in corporate, starting from the very low ranks, rising up. I remember being in discussions and conversations and doing things that very few women were doing at the time. And one of the reasons today why I support, mentor, and coach women in career paths is because I did not have, in hindsight, I did not have that help. Maybe one of the reasons why I've written my book, to share some of my lessons and my learnings. So today, when I look at what is happening and what is really required in that context of the boardroom, and women specifically, is that I think there's a lot more available now. But I'll say, as women, you have to know that just being a good performer, a high performer, does not equal to the fact that your career path is going to rise up the ladder. You've got to show up. You've got to have the right currency, which includes developing the right relationships. You've got to have people who champion you. And for me, those things happened almost, I stumbled on them. You know, it's not like I knew this is what I needed to have. But today, I think there's a lot of help and resources around that. So yes, you need to be a hard worker, a high performer, but you need to form the right relationships. Do you have someone who champions you in a place where conversations are being held where you cannot take yourself? In boardrooms, it's good to apply for an interview and say, I have all the credentials, my CV is looking great. But who in that office where that discussion will be, because by the time that conversation is being held, if there were 3 shortlisted candidates, you've all qualified. They're all good enough for the job. The question is, which one do we pick? And for those, you need champions. And when I say champions, I know if you go out of the country, they call them sponsors. But because of what sponsor terminology has been made to mean in Kenya, I call them champions. And champions are people who can advocate and say, I know Mercy. She's a person of good character. She keeps to her word. And for this reason, she's a high performer. I believe she can do this role if given. So you need to develop those relationships. They don't come overnight. You have to invest in them. You have to find the places to do them. I know women think they're disadvantaged. They think the decisions are done on the golf course or in that after meeting, wherever, whether it's in the pub or wherever. But there are places. I tell some of my clients, if the person you're looking to champion you comes to the office early in the morning, why don't you also come in the morning? You know, you can go and meet them at the coffee place. Okay, now I know we're doing a lot of virtual meetings. But before COVID, those were possibilities. You can actually schedule a meeting and say, you know, I would like you to champion me on this. And when you perform well, do they get to even know what you have done? Some of us, we do well and we keep quiet and we hope that somebody will tell the story for us. We have to be more vocal than that.
You know, when we are still at that, I think that's very insightful, especially when you say that you can be a top performer, but you need a few more assets around you to be able to rise to the higher levels. Now let's talk women to women or women for women, and the culture, of course, of championing, and the need for women to champion each other into those high positions, and your analysis of that from your experience.
You know, Fury, in my experience, I have managed to negate a lot of misconceptions or stories that you hear. First, you've had women are usually the first to bring each other down. My first boss in corporate, when I left college and started working, was a woman. And she supported me. We had the fantastic relationship. We still are in touch to this day. She's living in the US. We still connect. We still converse. Yeah. My last job in employment, I still had a woman boss. Okay. So this stereotype of saying that women can't work together, I think is a stereotype, and it's a narrative that we need to negate. I think if a boss is bad, we can all acknowledge I've had bad and good female bosses. I've had bad and good male bosses. So why do we stereotype that women are not good bosses. For me, at the end of the day, we are human beings, and it's the kind of relationship you cultivate of respect, of having values that will take you through in terms of, are you committed to what you're doing? Can I rely on you that when you criticize my work, you're actually bringing value to it? And I say, you as women, sometimes we personalize and we think the critique is about us as individuals. And the critique, I say, separate yourself. If you did a project, it didn't work, it's the project that is being criticized. You may not have gotten certain things right. Anyone will not get it right in that context. So instead, have an attitude. It's again a mindset. What attitude are you having? Are you willing to learn? Are you willing to engage? Are you willing to collaborate? And that, for me, is what I have seen as being the key and the differentiator of having good relationships with my bosses, whether male or female. Didn't matter.
Okay.
Yes.
So there reaches a point where, of course, there is a gender component, but there's also some universality. Like there's a certain aspect to which people get positions because universally they have what it takes. And also bring down those stereotypes is really commendable, because there are a lot of stereotypes around it. Yeah. And I think that would be a whole conversation by itself, just how women support each other when it comes to going higher or taking bigger roles in the society.
Yes.
But we must talk also, before we go to Value Connect, about the woman, the corporate life, and the family life. Because sometimes that relationship is seen to be more sophisticated, more for the woman than for the man.
Well, from my experience, Yuri, one of the things is, like I told you, I started from the bottom of the ladder. I worked at Kenya Railways when they were known as Chumangumu, not the posh SGR that there is today. And at that time, Jerry Luceno, being my boss, empowered me. And she empowered us equally in the office, you know, and said, go do this. But I had to go forth my creativity, my thinking, how can I do different? Because I want to perform and make sure that I am doing what I'm paid to do, and even more, because most of us tend to do the bare minimum, which is really not what we're called to do as people of faith. I moved to private sector, and that did not change, okay? And just navigating those ladders and having, of course, I dealt with office politics. They exist everywhere. There's no organization that does not have them. I had very low moments. In fact, in one of those incidences, I ended up in hospital. Had a very stressful moment, and my body just shut down. And those are part of the memoirs that I have captured in my book. I had scenarios. My baby was born premature, and I was out of work for 6 months. And having come back and to plug in again, those are the intricacies that women have to deal with that men don't. But how do you come back? How do you bounce back? How do you find that system to support you and to handhold you? I worked abroad. I had to leave my son aged 4 and my family here. Again, another challenge. Where do you balance? What do you do? My last job in corporate, I was a deputy CEO, and I was about to be promoted to take over from Betty Miner, my boss then. And I made a choice to follow my family because my husband was given a job out of the country. They're difficult decisions, not easy. But and my advice is, you need to evaluate every moment for what it is and take it into the context, first yourself, and then bring in those around you. Yeah, in my case, my spouse, my immediate family, to just help me figure out. I mean, I left in one instant, went to work abroad. My son is 4. In another instance, I decline a job and follow my family. They're different. So you have to evaluate everything at its moment and figure out what works best and how to advance that. There's no right or wrong, but you got to understand, interrogate, And when you are at peace with the answer, I would add here, because I'm a person of faith, pray about it. But prayer, we know faith without works is nothing. You got to take action. And whichever answer it is, like when I decided I had enough of the job and I needed to come home to my family, God just opened the doors in a miraculous ways that I never even imagined. So you will see those things happening if you're really aligned to God's will for your life.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's possible to bring up a sound family, at the same time be able to do your best in the corporate space.
Yes, it's possible. Okay. But you need the right support systems.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
And now let's go home to the subject that's very close to your heart. Value Connect, the institution. Tell us how it came to be and what you do as the founder of Value Connect.
Thank you. Thank you, Fury. Now, Value Connect has been in existence since 2013. And it was not something I had sat down and planned, at least not for the time being, because when I came back from my job in Europe, I had tried to start a business and I fell flat-footed. I mean, face down. It didn't work out.
That would form a good conversation, just because we know you are very successful. I mean, these parts of falling flat, look like
they are there.
You've not touched there, But anyway, go ahead.
They are there. I share them actually in my book. But one of the things I say, this is again the thing about success. People don't see what lies beneath the iceberg. There's a lot of tears, pain, and a lot of struggles that we have underneath there. And when you see me sitting here today, and that's why I chose to write my book, by the way, is for people to understand that nothing good, we're told about the diamonds. The diamond, by the time we see the diamond on a ring or we want to buy it as a gift for somebody, it has gone through a lot of hard polishing and being subjected to a lot before it is what it is. So nothing good is found without some hard work. And even the Bible references that, we are being refined all the time so that we can get better. So I have had my fair share of struggles. But in terms of moving, even when I moved to start Value Connect, I was in a place which was not best for me. I'd had to give up a career, heading a very big organization in Kenya, and I find myself in a foreign country, not knowing what to do. But then I discovered there was an opportunity to begin to connect Kenyan businesses to export markets. That's how I started. We were based in Mozambique, and I started to open up. I actually started with only 3 companies. Fury, 3. And we sat down, they gave me their needs on business development, and I embarked on working on them based on my experience, previous experience. So everything builds up, okay? And as I started to do that and doing it well, this is what I say, when you do something, do it well, and make sure the person you're doing it for will not forget you, and they become your vision carrier. And that's how it all started. 3 people, it built up. The next thing, I was hosting 24 companies for a trade mission in Mozambique. And what really brought about the name Value Connect is because I discovered I am gifted in connecting people. Fury, I'll meet you today, which is what I've done, and I'll get to know just a little bit about what you do. And if I step out there and I find somebody who's interested in what you're offering, I'll be more than happy to connect them to you. That's what I did. But I was like, I'm not just about connecting. How do I add value as I do the connecting? And that's how Value Connect was born.
Okay.
Yes.
And lots of trade missions.
Yes.
Across, in different ways. And when you talk about your gift of connecting people, and in this context is connecting businesses.
Yes.
Now, if we look at the church, for instance, the church is a huge organization, has a lot of value, has a lot of things to do and impacts it can make in the community.
Yeah.
And there are things out there or opportunities out there that do not look exactly churchy, right? But the church can make a great impact there. I just want to hear Value Connect in terms of the church and what it's able to do in the society.
Yeah. Again, Fury, back to our earlier conversation about how can we live our faith even in the secular world? How can we be the light in the darkness? How can we be the fruit, bearing the fruit of the Spirit that we are asked to do? And again, for me, it comes back down to the simplicity of being authentic in who we are. In my case, when I became more reinforced in my faith, I knew I was not made for the pulpit. Because I've not spent time, I come to church like everybody else on Sunday or attend church. I miss even some Sundays. But am I present in the marketplace? And I knew from the onset that my calling is to serve in the marketplace. And even in the trade missions that I hosted, a reason why, because there are things I found clients. I remember one trade mission hosting in Dubai, and one of the clients could see what I was about to do, but he was hesitant to pay to attend it. Reason, he had had his fingers burnt before. He had been called, what he was promised was not delivered, and so he didn't want to attend. Now, when the whole event started, because I invited him and said, you're free to sit in the audience after all. I have people sitting there. Those people sitting there are not the ones paying me. So you're welcome. It was a Kenyan Diaspora Day. And halfway through the program, he came looking for me and said, Mercy, I want to be on that stage. He was in real estate. And he wanted to pitch to the Kenyans residing and living in Dubai. And I said, but I offered you the opportunity before. Do come to the next one. He says, no, 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 no. I must do this one today. And for the simple thing is that when I promised Fury, you're coming for a trade mission, you'll meet 2 investors in your line of field. You'll be here for this long, this way. Just deliver that. And if I can't, I tell you, you know? And this is where the business community has an opportunity. I'm sure you've had this before, Fury, that some Christian businesses, I'll not demonize everybody, but some quote-unquote Christian businesses, we don't deliver quality. We don't deliver value for money. We're the ones to go under when we're being looked for. We don't pay, you know? Because we are Christians, I want Fury to give me pro bono. So now, if you're giving me pro bono, how am I supposed to survive? I need food on my table. I have bills to pay. So I think in the Christian community, we have the first honors of living and being the light in our own circles, even before we can go and become the light to the outside world.
All right.
Yes.
I like that image of being light in the world, because that comes right from the mouth of Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
Meaning that we are being moved from the cathedral and taken right into the marketplace.
Yes.
And so we have to position ourselves in a way that is really, we are also known to connect with value. You know, even when it comes to doing different projects in the community, working with other organizations, and I think that's really a big thing. And you will also tell us about how love works, right? How love works in the community, how love works in the corporate. Because sometimes you hear love and you think, hey, Valentine. You hear love and you think man, woman. And I mean, we just want to hear how that whole commandment, let me call it the commandment of love, would feature fruitfully in the marketplace. And viewer, that would be something that is very interesting. How do we expand love to mean more than just what we know and to make it a culture in a workplace. You want to be here in the second part. We're taking a short break. Again, we're talking to Mercy Achola, who is the director of Value Connect. You want to be here as we hear about making love the driver of a culture in a workplace. Stay with us. After this short break, we'll be back. Viewer, welcome back. This is Spotlight, and we are talking to Mercy Achola Masila, who is the director of Value Connect, and great insights on faith and the marketplace, and just that experience of a fruitful corporate life that is driven by faith. And now we talk about love, and love works, right? We think about the workplace, the corporate place as in terms of cutthroat competition.
Yeah.
You know, it's intense, it's hot, it's hostile, right? But here you are, and you now want to tell us about love in this very highly competitive place.
Yeah.
And you say love works.
Yeah.
Just tell us more about that.
Yeah, Fury, thank you. Thank you once again. Yeah, you know, the term love, as you put it before we went for the break, is a term that we have tended to associate with the emotions, the feelings. And that's why we tend to think that love is only about couples, is love from a parent to a child, and at best is love about relationships of people, maybe in your immediate family, or you have some bloodline too. But when you really look and go back from a biblical perspective, and in Corinthians 1, chapter 13, the famous chapter that we all go to a wedding and we hear being read about, love is patient, love is kind. Love is selfless, love is not angered easily. Are these things that can be applied in the workplace? And this is what we want to begin to talk about, especially now. Today is the first day of February, which is the month of love. And as we're having all these adverts that are going to bombard us about where we need to go as couples, as families and all, we in Value Connect want to say, is it a moment to pause? As a business leader, an entrepreneur, whether you're in corporate, is it possible to love on your team and still have them motivated and performing and being productive to yield the results that are required? Because yes, we are in a very competitive environment, you said it. But the question is this. In your organization, back to the values that we were talking about before, who is delivering those results that you're looking for? They're human beings, not human doings. You know, we're human beings. And in being a being, we need to exercise kindness to one another. Is that too much to ask? If we're working in the same team on the same project, must I come shouting at you? Can there be a kinder way that we relate?
You know, isn't there, Mercy, almost a culture that as a manager or as a lead, you have to be almost rough and tough and scare. You know, if you don't scare them, then maybe you think they will not respect you, or they will not work in a way that is intense. So there's a clash there of understandings. Please, you know, I don't know which schools these managers go to, that tell them you must shout and you must scream and you must bring down, you must make your people feel small. And then you say, now we love
Absolutely. This is the conversation. Remember I said that we're trying to shift a conversation here and a mindset. Because a lot of leaders, including people of faith, yeah, the kind of person they exude in the workplace, and then they come to church, and either they're a church elder, no offense to church elders, but they're serving in church in one role or another. If you told their team members that this is who this person is in the office, they'll tell you, no. You're talking about two different people, yeah? Many times when I'm doing my trainings, I tell people, please introduce, when I'm doing that value segment of people identifying themselves, I can tell you more often than not, because I always make them go through an exercise where they have to go through 38 value cards, and they need to pick their top 5. More often than not, the top 5 that I see people selecting is faith and religion, family, you know? Others come later. And so my question is, if faith, religion is usually a top value for most people, why can't you leave that value in the office too? Yeah? And this is where the mindset change needs to come in. This is where we are trying to change this narrative that as a leader, as a boss, you need to be harsh and make people feel small, as you said, and realize that the way you treat your people, first and foremost, is the way they will treat your customers. And if you look after your people in a business setup environment, they will look after your business. It's a no-brainer. Let me just ask you a simple question. What happens when somebody has been nice and kind to you?
Well, there are several things. You can reciprocate.
Absolutely.
In a related way.
Yes.
But also there's a feeling within you of being humanized.
Absolutely.
And feeling whole.
There you go.
It's therapeutic.
There you go. And that's all it takes. I have not come and dictated to you which numbers you need to crunch and all that. Just me coming and explaining to you in a nice, sober tone and showing some kindness to you. Actually, scientists and people who study biology will tell you there's a hormone that's released inside of you. And if you do something or a good gesture to somebody, the likelihood is that they will go and do it to somebody else. And it even goes further. That if I watch you doing a kind gesture to somebody else, even though I did not participate in the exchange of the kind gestures, I too will feel nice.
Okay.
And I'm also likely to go and do something kind to somebody else.
All right. Now, we're talking about a cultural change.
Absolutely.
And also a mental change.
Absolutely.
Now, how does the boss or the senior who is so used to, who comes from the shouting school of thought and the intimidate, make feel small school of thought. Now, how do they begin now to shift to this other dimension of managing by love?
Great question. Great question. And the first thing to make the change, to make the turnaround, begins with self-awareness. You have to know, am I this kind of a boss? Am I this kind of a team member? Do I make, because again, it's not always about the boss. You can be working in a team of colleagues, but because you're the mujuaji, you also make the others feel small. Yeah? So we can all begin first. You have to have that self-awareness. Is this how I have been? And then the next thing is to be intentional and say, I need to change this. I have to change this. And be intentional about it. And then the third thing is do it. Take action. Will you get the change happening overnight? No. It's a habit, remember, that has been created. And to create a habit takes time. But if you have the self-awareness, the intentionality, and you're moving step by step to take action, the results will come. Changing culture, we know. Again, we've had strategies will tell you that culture eats company strategy for breakfast. And so it is at the core of any business entity to get their culture right. And actually, when you check most company missions and values, you know, they'll always have something about, to the context of, you need to treat other people nicely. You need to communicate. I cannot communicate to you if I am not connecting with you. And how do I do that? I have to see you as a human being, not a human doing. So this is the beginning of the culture change for any organization. It's doable. It's not simple, but it's not impossible.
All right.
Yes.
Because it's really a huge
It's a sprint.
change.
It's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
It is. And then also, it turns things around completely. You know, you remind me of a time when two institutions I've been to, a university where the lecturer was just we all feared the lecturers, totally. You don't even look at them in the eye. Very difficult, very like you don't access them. Then I went to another institution whereby the professor would bring cookies to class.
Yep.
You know, just before you begin the class. And I was like, something is wrong here.
There you go.
You know, what's going on?
Absolutely.
But the students were more cooperative. The students did better because they were humanized, right? They felt like, as you say, you feel recognized as a human person. Now, again, practically speaking, and given that you do this quite a bit, what are some of the practices that a corporate will begin to do? You've told us about the person being intentional and being self-aware and doing, executing. But the larger culture and organization, what are some of the things they can begin to do? Practices that begin to breathe love into the culture.
Another great question there. And I would just say the action of it, in addition to what I've just shared before, as a person, it starts with the individual. That's why I said self-awareness, intentionality, and the action. But bringing it to the organization, there first needs to be a responsibility, and responsibility in decision-making, okay? We're here at Hope Media, so allow me to use the example, okay? On Spotlight, there's someone who holds the decisions of what happens in Spotlight. So there's responsibility. And everyone in Hope Media knows this is the person who's responsible for that, and they take ownership for it, okay? And then the next thing you want to do is to have, in that decision-making, that it is consultative. For me to be sitting on this chair today was not one person's decision. There's a person who the buck falls with, but there was some consultation to see what's the viability of this. Will they speak to our audience? Is it relevant with what we're trying to approach? So there's some consultation that happens there. And then once that has happened, you also need to inform. There are people within Hope Media not directly involved in Spotlight, but it's good for them to be informed that on such and such a day, we're going to have Mercy on the show, and this is the conversation that will be held. Okay? And so you want to communicate that. You want to inform. And then there's action that has to be taken. So in a very simplified way, and we can take that to any other organization where employees and team members are not feeling involved in the decision-making process, you will actually find that they're aloof. People show up and just do the bare minimum that they're supposed to do, and they can't wait, for the clock to hit the right time when they're supposed to leave. And once they're gone, they're detached from the organization. They want nothing else to do with it. But if they feel that communal, and back to your example of the lecturer, the two guys, they're lecturers. They're just using different approaches in terms of determining how they want to relate with their students. And those that are made to relate with he's still the lecturer. That does not demean his position. And I think that's the biggest fear for a lot of leaders. They think that if I'm seen sharing cookies with my team members, they will cease to respect me. There's still room for respect, and we're not saying that it disappears, but it's still possible to have that commune with your team members. And sometimes even showing them that you're vulnerable as a leader can go to a very great length for them to actually realize that you're also human, like they are, and they can relate with you.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, in Dubai, and you've been there, they have, I think, a minister in charge of happiness.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, they do.
And as soon as I wonder, who in Kenya would serve as the minister in charge of happiness? Anyway, and then also now bringing that in a related way, with love being such an important part of a progressive organization, do you foresee a time when there will be maybe, in the corporate sense, a love manager?
Well, if you ask me, in a corporate sense, the CEO is the lab manager.
Oh.
In fact, he should be called, instead of the chief executive officer, he should be called the chief encouragement officer. Yeah? Because something like this, it's a culture change we're talking about. It has to start from the top. It has to start from the top. And once it is cascaded down, you will find, and this is the conversation we'll actually be having and showcasing that it's possible, you find that, one, you minimize or bring down a lot of natural walls or barriers that exist. Could be departmental silos, and we are all familiar with that if you've worked in a corporate environment. You will also minimize conflict. And conflict sometimes stops things from happening in organizations in a big way. It also empowers. It's a very big empowering force. Because if I feel I'm trusted, Fury is my boss, he's given me a task to do, he's believed in me and asked me to do my bit, and I'm not going to get crucified or thrown under the bus when things go wrong, I'm more likely to bring out more ideas. Innovation opens up in such an environment. It's the same way, like I said, your customers will be treated. At the end of the day, if you're suspicious of your team, guess what? They'll also begin to be suspicious of their colleagues and everything else. So whatever you, the leader, are cascading is what will be cascaded in return. So to answer your question, the person in charge of that in an organization is the CEO.
The chief encouragement officer. That's really mind-turning when you think about it that way. Now, tell us a little about Joel Manby.
Good. Thank you for that question again. And allow me to bring in the context of why we're having Joel Manby. As a John Maxwell team member, I'm an executive director with the John Maxwell team. I get to buy a license which allows us to bring to Kenya one of the John Maxwell resources, which is an event known as Live to Lead. And the license allows us to bring John and other world-class speakers to our community, to our audiences over a 5-month period between October and end of February. So as Value Connect, we have been hosting Live to Lead in Kenya for the last 3 years. And last year's license, which started in October, it's ending in February. One of the speakers that John had on live stage was a gentleman by the name of Joel Manby. Joel, as in Joel, Manby, Manby. And Joel Manby is a former CEO of Saab America, the car manufacturer.
SAAB.
Yes. And also served at SeaWorld Entertainment. And because we're on TV, he's also featured on the famous TV program Undercover Boss, where basically CEOs go undercover to find out what is happening in their organizations. And Joel has written a book known as Love Works, the 7 timeless principles for effective leaders. And because he featured in this year's Live to Lead, we will be hosting him in a recorded, what we call Live to Lead, rebroadcast session. And he'll be sharing with us insights from his book, which are also based from his experience as a CEO in the many organizations he worked with and others that he has studied and come across, to see how these values of love that we've just been talking about are brought out, are possible, but most importantly, without compromising the end result of what each business or organization exists for, which is to bring around profitability and pay focus to the results of the bottom line. And how this, if you focus on it, can become the turnaround for your business if you have not been doing it. And if you're doing it, how you can improve on it to really advance yourself. So it's a discovery journey and a new conversation we're bringing it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've mentioned about rebroadcasting Joel Manby. Tell us a little bit more about that event, where it's going to be, and what it takes to be part of it. And you can speak directly to our viewers on that camera right there.
Okay. Thank you very much, Fury. So we're calling the event Love Works, an effective leader's perspective. And we'll be holding it on February 11th, which is next Friday, but 1, from 6 p.m. at the Nairobi Serena Hotel. Who would we like to be in the room? You, the viewer. You're a leader, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you work in a corporate environment, you have a team you oversee. This program is for you. If you want to hear a different conversation about love and how it works, and you want to discover these principles for yourself so that you can live them, not just in your work life, but also in your personal life, you want to be in the room. We'll also be featuring Joseph Choge in a fireside conversation. Joseph Choge is the current CEO for Unga PLC, so that we can be able to unpack this conversation and see how it applies and how it is even relevant in our own Kenyan environment. So the date you want to keep there is February 11th, 2022 from 6 p.m. at the Nairobi Serena Hotel. We have tickets that we are selling, both for individuals and for corporate tables. And I think I can share them. We have individual tickets going for 8,500 shillings only. And for a corporate table of 8 people going for 75,000 shillings only. In addition to that, of course, we'll have food. You cannot celebrate love without food. Lots of entertainment. It is the month of February, the month of love. We'll have plenty of chocolate, flowers, and everything that goes to celebrate the month of love. And you want to be in the room. So go on, look us up. You can call the number 0799 748 069. I'll repeat that. 0799 748 069. Or email us info@valueconnectonline.com. info@valueconnectonline.com, so that you can be able to get your ticket, or you can get more details to you and how you can be part of this great conversation we'll be having on February 11th. I guarantee you we have few slots left, so you don't want to miss your place. Get it today. And thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you.
All right. I think it's clear it's just worth investing in, totally. This lab works.
Absolutely.
And building the culture and being that person who is the chief encouragement officer.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm just thinking, Mercy, and I'm just thinking, allow me to think this way. Do you plan to get some politicians like together and tell them that love works?
Well, I hope so. If given the opportunity, I'm more than happy to share some thoughts along that line. I have actually been asked to serve in one of those steering committees under KEPSA, the Kenya Daima platform. So hopefully I will get a chance to share more about this.
We need
but
that.
we do need that.
They need that.
Yes.
I mean, they need, and also Kenya needs it. So if, I mean, going forward as you plan, as you interact with, you know, as you do what you do,
Yes.
just push for it. Let's have these politicians in the room. Let's tell them that love works. They
Yes.
don't need to you know, carry the kind of narratives they carry. They're not necessary, you know, and that they bring people down, you know, with narratives about hate and, I mean, strangling kind of a competition, you know. So I think that would be a place that right now, this year, in the coming few months, really needs also this conversation.
I totally agree. I totally agree with you. But I always come back to the question, you know, when we point fingers, if I point my finger at you, I have other fingers, more fingers pointing at me than at you. And so I say, sometimes we tend to feel so hopeless. And we think, oh, if the politicians don't do this, we're doomed, we cannot do anything, where are we going to end up? And then we feel crushed, like there's no hope. You know, one of the initiatives that John Maxwell does, and we're hoping that he can come to Kenya soon, I know he's going to Rwanda first before here, is something called transformational tables. And in the transformational tables, he discusses the values. And there are 6 values that he discusses. And we're currently even doing it in Kenya amongst the John Maxwell team. And if anyone is interested about this, it's actually something we're doing. We're not allowed to charge for, but very, very powerful. And we look at 6 values. The first value being hope. The second one is listening. The third one is adding value to people. The fourth one is forgiveness. The fifth one is multiplying leaders. And the sixth one is integrity. Now you tell me, these 6 values, if they do not represent love, and if you and I, in our own little community, wherever that be, if we practice those 6 values, wouldn't we bring a change?
You know, and I think what you're talking about is really a revolution.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that we can be able to reconfigure our Kenyan lives in communities, in institutions, in boardrooms, such that love becomes our dominant force at work. And it's the greatest. You know, Jesus said it is the greatest.
Of all the 3, it is
the greatest. And so it's great everywhere. It's great in the community. It's great in the political area. It's also great in the corporate.
Absolutely.
Hence, love works. Thank you so much.
And I will add one more before we finish. The language of love is one that cuts across any faith, any language, any culture, barriers, all these things we use to box in people. Love cuts across all those things. But remember, love is not an emotion. It's not a feeling. Love is a verb, meaning love is action. Yeah? Being kind to you is an act of kindness. Listening. How can I connect with you if I'm not listening to you? You know? So this conversation of love is one that transcends every barrier that is known to man. And if we just began in our small way, the transformation will begin in our lives. And therein lies the hope that we all can look up to and live for, even as we hope for the larger transformation to happen in our country and in the society that we live in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mercy. A vision definitely worth pursuing and worth executing. And as you continue to do your part, may God's success, you know, just encourage you continually. May the team grow bigger. May there be an army, that
Amen.
totally says love works.
Amen.
From a testimonial point of view,
Amen.
that I took up this way and
Yes.
changed my organization,
Yes.
changed my life,
Yes.
changed my community, may it be so. Thank you so much.
Amen.
We
say amen to
yes,
that.
amen,
Thank you.
amen. Viewer, we've been talking about love works, and we are thankful that Mercy Masila was able to tell us such great things about love, and important today, tomorrow, and always to note that love will not exist apart from in a doing mode.
Yes.
Think about it. This has been Spotlight. Thank you for watching.